We're going to start this part of our lesson sitting on a pad, and this is the standard cockpit view that's with Flight Simulator, FSX. And as you notice, you're down low in the seat. You can't see over the panel. It's a very unnatural looking position. If you look at the helicopter from the side, you'll see the pilot sits way above the panel. That panel is not up in his face. In fact, the panel actually points toward the ground. So the solution, on normal landings, I always make sure that I lower the panel with Control Q, so that I have a little bit of the horizon. I can see ahead of me a little bit. Now this is more like if you look straight ahead, you see straight ahead, and the panel is down from the pilot's seated position. The pilot's looking straight ahead. When he looks straight ahead, he's looking through the whole panel. What we're seeing here, we're seeing about this much of the windshield right here, and he has all the rest of this to look through. First exercise here we're going to look at is called skids. It's 2 strips of concrete, the exact width of the skids of the Bell 206. The object here is to land with your skids on the pads. It helps you understand and learn what the skids are on the helicopter, where their distance is. It's flying from the cockpit view, and how to get there. As we leave skids, our next exercise is called hover. There is a 100 by 100 pad here, and the idea, of course, is to hover within this area for a minute. You can increase it as time goes on, but a minute pretty much will tell whether you have control over the helicopter or not. You can see it real good from the tower view, exactly what's happening. A little forward drift that I correct here. Then I settled in. When you settle in, you relax and then start flying the helicopter, very, very small increments. So the helicopter appears from a distance not to move at all. In reality, you are moving just a little bit, but it's really hard to tell from a distance. And then from the cockpit, it looks like this. The next part of the course is the slalom of cones here. We start on the start pad, we lift off, and what we're going to do is fly sideways through each of these cone openings. It's not a zigzag back and forth like you would in skiing. This is very controlled. You run the helicopter up in a ground hover to the first cone and then slide sideways through it. And then you need to make sure you don't slide back over. As you can see from the side view, when I get up to the next cone, we'll just slide sideways through it and then go up to the next one. Again, the goal is not to fly over the previous cone. And then I put a curve in here, so you have to maintain more control over the helicopter here. And so he goes to the next cone, flies through, and pretty much takes the shortcut through the last one. I say he, it's actually me doing the flying. And then we land on the end pad. To be successful, you have to go through all the cones, and you also have to make a landing on this pad. After we leave the pad for the slalom, in this particular case I went and got some gas because I was running a little low on the old helicopter here. We have a single cone. And the idea is to line up with a single cone and then fly circles around it, trying to keep the nose of the helicopter pointed at the cone. So let's see how we do. I tend to get a little close to the cone sometimes because I let the nose down as I'm doing right here, and so that brings me a little closer. do it again here, and now I'm closer even. I'm making good turns, but the problem here is that you tend to sling yourself out. Momentum builds up as you make the turn, and you've got to fly back in toward the cone to finish your circle. And then the next portion of the course is called confined spaces. And basically we have a circle of trees, and the goal is to land in the middle of the trees. Then take off, do a pedal turn, and land 180 degrees out. You'll see what I'm doing here. Overhead view, you see I'm pretty much in the middle of the circle here. Now I'm going to land. And then the goal for me is to turn around and fly to the other side of the circle and then take off. Do your pedal turn slow here to make sure you don't start backing up too bad and getting into the trees behind you. Pretty easy to do. As you do a pedal turn, you build momentum up the way the rotor goes, and you could end up back in the trees, in which case I come pretty close here. There you go. Pretty much in the same spot, but in the opposite direction. And now I'll take off, and I do a maximum performance takeoff here. Get above the trees. The last part of this part of the obstacle course gives us a lesson in landing from the cockpit position, which is where I always fly. It's the most realistic. I consider the virtual cockpit a toy. It's just not really representation of really flying a helicopter. This last one is called a 10 by 10 pad. Basically, that's what it is. This pad is about the size of the skids of the helicopter. And I'm going to show you something here. We're going from the cockpit view, and we're going to look like we're going to land on this pad, and we're going to watch the cockpit view. We're doing really well here. We're not getting too much forward speed. And there's it coming up there, and so we're going to go down and land on the pad. When you go back and look at it, look where we are. We're way behind on the pad here, which is a lesson about flying the cockpit. When you fly the cockpit, you have to allow where you want to land to pass under you for a second or two, and then land on it. Now we're going to go back and try again. Get about 20 knots, and then I'm going to do a pedal turn. Try to kill this motion here, which I do. And we're going to go land on this thing again. There it is. A little forward speed going here, so we'll make it over there. And now I'm going to try to land on this pad the way I normally do with a cockpit, and the pad is just about the size of the skids of the helicopter, so it's a real good practice for you to be able to set the helicopter down where you really want to set it. Well, there goes the pad underneath us. I'm letting it go for a couple seconds, and then I'm going to set it down. When we look at where the helicopter is, it's right on the pad. So practice flying from the cockpit. A lot of the cockpit flying of the helicopter is by feel. You have to feel the things around you in order to do it. And an example here would be, and we know where the skids, you saw the skids was next to us. The skids test was next to us. And there it is. It goes by. So you kind of keep a mental representation of where stuff is as you fly. There's our hover. There's our slalom. There's our single cone. And there's our confined space. And that's pretty much the course. Keep your eye on simviation.com. That's SIMVIATION, simviation.com. So I will release this scenery there where you can download it yourself and fly. It has a nice little house for you, and a hangar, and some other things. And off in the distance, you'll see something that I'll also be releasing as part of this, and it's what I call Water World. It's 3 boats with interesting landing possibilities that I'll go into in another video. This is Big Dog 205. Thanks for watching.